Welcome to the Casa de Confidence podcast, a podcast for women about going in the direction of their dreams and the confidence it takes to reach them. I'm your host, Julie DeLucca-Collins. I am a dreamer, a traveler, visionary, risk taker. I am a lover of books, activist, philanthropist, and most of all, a supporter of women in their dreams. If you stumble into our casa for the first time, welcome. If you've been here before, I'm so glad you're back. Grab your drink of choice, settle in, and make yourself at home.
Welcome to part 2 of episode 3 of Casa de Confidence podcast with Julie DeLucca-Collins.
That sounds like math.
That is a lot of math. Part 1, part 2, the whole shebang. Anyway,
Okay.
in the first episode, Julie was speaking with Garzon Maaks, but I neglected to ask a few questions.
Yes, you did neglect that.
Well, I did ask who the guest was, and she answered,
I did.
Garzon Maaks.
That's right. Doctor, by the way.
Dr. Garzon Maaks.
Yes.
Ph.D., right?
Ph.D.
Ah, very good.
Good job for you.
The one thing I didn't ask, and we went a whole episode not knowing, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking tea.
Tea. No coffee?
No coffee.
Very good.
I got 7 hours of sleep last night, so I need to lay off the coffee by 3.
Anyway, we should keep this intro short, but I think that's already too late.
I guess so.
On to our podcast with Garzon Maaks.
Thanks for listening.
So you, I think what you're talking about, Julie, is resilience, and that's a big buzzword right now. And I think a lot of people don't really understand what that means. But I think in plain language, what it means is that sometimes our most painful life lessons are the ones that become most transformative.
Right.
And I can give you a religious example of that. I mean, if you're a Christian and you know what Good Friday is, you know that like the biggest disaster as far as the humans could see became the biggest win 2 days later, right? So I always tell people when I'm talking from a faith perspective that one of the reasons why I'm a Christian is because my God is a God of disasters. He does his best work when it's a disaster,
Mhm.
right? But let's just pull back from that for a second and say, like, how many times, go back to your childhood and think about things that are really sentinel moments in your childhood. And what you'll often remember are like when you were in gymnastics class and you couldn't get the backflip and you couldn't do that right, and you finally got it, in that sense of yay, after you'd like, or for us it was roller skating, right?
Oh, yes, of course.
Skating. How many times did we have bruises and scrapes and everything, but the first time we flipped around and went from going forward to going backwards and got the flip right back and we got it right, and we
You have me wanting to dance with my roller skates.
right? You're like, this is just freaking awesome. I've been working on this forever. And I can see it in my career. So, obviously we've talked about faith and we've talked about the fact that I'm Catholic. So I started at a university in 1997, and I realized based on my Facebook timeline, that 10 years ago right now, I was going through this period where after having been there for, that would have been 13 years at that point, I had gone on the tenure track. I'd gone back, I'd gotten a PhD, I'd done a postdoc, I got a second master's degree, because for a long time I was addicted to higher education. And then I went on the tenure track and I went up for tenure, and everybody's familiar with this concept. But what a lot of people don't understand is if you go up for tenure and you don't get it, they say, okay, fine, you're out of a job. You have a year to find another job. Good luck. And they literally have you work teaching for the next year. And then they give you time to go out, and it buys you 12 months to go out and find another job. So here I am 13 years into the career. I'd been asked to be the director of a program. I started a new degree program, and then they said, no, you don't get tenure. And it was very public because there were 3 of us that went up. and 2 of us got it, and I didn't. And the way that they knew is because they all knew that we were doing it, because there was all this talk about how we were all putting our stuff in. And then came this celebration of the other 2 people, and my name wasn't on it. And they were like, "Why isn't your name on it?" And so it
Right.
was very public, and I was devastated. It was not only did I fail, but I failed spectacularly and publicly. And I use this example with my students a lot, because they'll fail a class as a freshman and go like, "Oh, my life is over." I'm like, "Honey, you're 18. Like, you have another
Right.
60 years left. This one class, you will not even remember it in 15 years. You won't remember me. You won't remember this conversation. None of this you're going to remember." But in that failure, it allowed me to reinvent myself, to go like, here I am. I've been doing this for a little while, and I just got a public, "You're not good enough."
Right.
Why am I? Well, then fine. If I'm not good enough by your standards, then I'm not living by them anymore. And so I started getting involved with this professional organization that I spoke about. And I got involved in a writing project that has ended up involving textbooks, and there have been so many other things that have happened, and doors that have opened, that I never would have considered walking through, because I was living by what they said I had to do to prove being worthy, that, by the way, I didn't like. I wasn't happy then. So then I had this incredible freedom. Like, I screwed up. Everything was public. And then I had the end of a 24-year marriage very quickly. And I'm Catholic. I married my husband in the church. It was another public failure. And
Yes.
it caused, and I think this is another thing that we all need to be willing to discuss. I was depressed. I was clinically depressed, and we all don't want to talk about that because it's being crazy, and you just have to pick yourself
There's
up.
a stigma to mental health that we need to move from.
Oh my gosh. And suicide is the second leading cause of death for 14 to 34-year-olds in this country.
That's huge. And I don't think that we talk about that enough.
We don't. And when you see someone who dies by suicide, that's a death to mental illness, is what it is. And I was clinically depressed. And I thank God for my best friends and my family and the people who were there and who supported me. And then I had a health crisis, and it was like all this, like, if you could imagine a mud pie in a blender, that was my life at that point. And then it was like, there was this moment where I said, I can allow this to consume me. I can sit and wallow in this because I'm choosing to sit and wallow in this, or I can sit and wallow in this because I don't have a choice. I need help. I need a way out. And for me, that was therapy. I went to therapy.
Yep.
And I started working on the mess from my childhood and the mess from my failed marriage. And then I started realizing more and more kind of who I am, and I'm not perfect. And I do have imposter syndrome, which is that when I would go and stand on a days in front of 1,500 people, Julie, you and I talked about this yesterday, I would stand behind the curtain going, my heart beating out of my chest, like wanting to vomit. Going like, please don't trip on your way up. Please don't trip your way up. Please don't trip on your way up. They're just going to realize you're a fool. They're just going to feel it. And then, of course, I did what I always do. Brain moving 100 miles an hour, talking super fast,
Mm-hmm.
And instead of saying president-elect, I called her the president erect. And I realized as soon as I said it, and I went, yeah, because she stands really tall. And I just kept moving. I acknowledged it. Yes, I said that wrong. I acknowledged it. I moved on. And I think that's resilience, right?
That is resilience for sure.
Whether your mistake is your boss calls you in and said you're doing substandard work, or the day that we all do as a mother when you're standing in the kitchen just screaming at the top of our lungs, right? Because we're just done. And then you go, okay, great. I got Mother of the Year award. I was cruel.
You're normalizing a behavior that I hear from so many women. And thank you for sharing that, because I've had many conversations with girlfriends in which they'll say, I am the worst person ever, because they've had that moment. But it's important to know that, yes, we have those moments when we tell someone they're erect, or we're yelling at our kids, or we're failing in front of our superior in a workplace, but understanding that, okay, let's acknowledge it and deal with it, and then move on to creating a new circumstance for ourselves by the way we think.
And I think it also helps when you, we're having this whole conversation like everybody is capable of doing this.
Right.
If you have anxiety, anxiety is the great liar that everything is a big deal, that you can control your way out of everything. Like, and as women, we're kind of control freaks about things.
Yeah.
Just a
tiny bit.
Just a tiny bit. Like, I always find it hysterical when I see parents like in church or in my office when they come in for like well baby visits, and the dad's holding the baby and the mom's like, like you're gonna, and like the reality is if his head didn't snap off during the birthing process, it's probably not going to happen at this point.
Right.
That was
That's good to know. Good to know.
That was a fairly traumatic experience for the child. Okay. And so, you're not doing it right. Or you'll see the dad holding the happy baby, and mom's got to put the blanket and give him the binky and because it's, and think about the messages that we send. We're telling our sons that men are incapable of holding babies without women micromanaging them. We're treating the fathers of our children like they're morons, and we're being control freaks, when why is this the thing we're being a control freak about? And I think it's based in our own insecurities. Right. That I'm not comfortable as a mom because no matter how many times you babysat, no matter how many nieces and nephews and godchildren you have, you don't get it until you're home and you're miserable and you stink. And for years, like I go to work and I give lectures, and this tells you how long ago it was, you're up writing on the board, and I'd have like snot on the back of my jacket that I didn't know about because one of my kids had cried and like snorted on the back of my jacket. Like, and I think you have to embrace the insanity of it all.
Right.
And I laugh at stuff like that because like, am I gonna go like, oh great, I just spent the whole day with 2-year-old boogers on the back of my blue jacket that everybody saw and everybody knew what it was. I'm like, oh well.
My mom tells a story and she used to tell this story from as long as I can remember. And my mom is from El Salvador. She was Miss El Salvador in 1960 something. But so she was a pretty young thing, and I'm using that in a very sexist kind of way. But imagine this cute young woman, and she worked as an assistant to this big head honcho executive. And to mind you, my mom is someone who has a master's, but whatever, we're not getting into that. But, that little 1960s mentality. And she talks about she was, I guess, taking dictation from this gentleman, and her underwear or her pantyhose fell off as she's standing in his office. And she tells the story in a much more funny way than I can, but all she said is that she kind of like stepped out of them and pushed them aside, picked them up, and walked out. And I think that from an early age, listening to that story, it led me to see the behavior that you're going to have some pretty effed up crap happen to you, or embarrassing things, and you can choose to be mortified, or you can choose to go with it and kind of keep going. And I think that as someone who trips many times in her life, I have just embraced the fact that it's better to kind of lean into it and not could beat myself up for the imperfection of the moment or the circumstance or my action or the result of my action or somebody else's action, but just go with it. Because I think that if you lean into it, then you're normalizing something that can happen to everyone. I think that I have seen so many different people right now, right? That they're normalizing things that 10 years ago we would have definitely been mortified by. And I love that we're creating a world where imperfection is acceptable.
Right.
and
And it's a
where
great
imperfection
for
is
our
seen.
children, right?
Yes.
So it's there's a book for kids that says everybody farts.
I love that book.
It's a great book. It's a great book because you know what? We all do.
We all
And
do it.
all been in a meeting where we're talking kind of like we are right now, and then all of a sudden there's that rumble that starts in our stomach and comes up, and everybody in the room hears it coming, right? Because you can't control it, or we trip or we fall. And I think we talked about servant leadership, and we talk about normalizing things. I think what it is that we need to be kind to ourselves, and we need to be grounded.
And as women, we don't do that.
We don't. I'm looking at like the beautiful wine glasses that you have behind, and the crystal decanter with the beautiful decor back there. And this is a rental home, so this is not my color, but I'm embracing the aqua for the time being.
I like it.
Well, thank you very much. And so, but I think like, I remember times when my kids were young or when my kids were teenagers, just losing it with them. And then my parenting changed dramatically before and after the father of my children and I separated, because I realized that once I got over my depression and I could actually be a parent reasonably again, that I started like telling my kids there were a lot of things that I used to worry about and I used to yell at them about. And it was because I was worried about how their dad was going to react to it, or I was worried about my own insecurities of things. And I decided to just embrace those insecurities. And because my kids were older, to be real with them. And we started having really good, really honest conversations. And that's the thing for we've spent a lot of time talking about younger kids, but for older kids is your older children are going to make stupid mistakes.
Of course. Hey, we were stupid kids in 1.2, right?
Oh my gosh. And I did some really dumb stuff. And because I had some very traumatic experiences. And so I wanted to protect my daughters from those. And so having honest conversation with your kids about, I remember telling my kids, like, you get into trouble in the middle of the night, you're at a party, your friends are drinking, you don't feel safe, you call me, I will never get mad, I will never say anything about it, I will never hold it against you, I will not. And then my daughter called me one night, and she was there and her 5 friends, and they were with kids they didn't know, and she's like, Mom, I don't feel safe. And I'm like, ping me where you are, show me where you are on your phone, I'll be there in 20 minutes. And I got the call at 1:30 in the morning, and I went and I picked up all the kids and I shuttled them around and I dropped them off. And I said, I remember being in the car with them going like, do you want to go pick up your cars with your parents, or do you want me to come get you in the morning to go take you? And I brought them home and I took her to bed and I tucked her in and I kissed her on the forehead. And I said, I'm really proud of you because you got into trouble. You were in an uncomfortable situation and you asked for help, because that's what we need to teach our children. When our children come home with an F, we don't go like, and because I listen to these teenagers all the time with this incredible anxiety over school, because if I get a B in history, then I can't go to the right college and then I won't have a good career. And that's a whole lie. Like, you don't need to go to an Ivy League school. Even Warren Buffett's the first person to tell you that people that don't send their kids to state schools are making the biggest financial mistakes they can make. And I had one kid that didn't go to a state school because it fit her. She needed a small school like mine that has 3,000 students at it with a lot of attention and interaction with her faculty, where the other one needed the football team and that experience. Right. But teaching our kids and being kind to herself. If you had a child in your house right now, I'm guessing that gorgeous, I guess it's like an iced tea lemonade dispenser.
Yeah, it's a decanter.
Whatever it is. Okay. So you have the nice decanter over there. But I remember there would be times kids would break things and I would lose my stuff. It's a $10 plate from Target. Now, if it's the last remaining thing that I have for my grandmother, then shame on me that I put it out where the kids could accidentally hit it and knock it over. That's not on the kids.
Yeah, I grew up in a house, in my grandmother's house in El Salvador. She had gorgeous, stunning china. She had like several sets of china that she had collected when she traveled through Europe, and crystal, and she would take it out for dinners, just regular family dinners, and she would use it. I remember one day she was I was helping her, and she had a maid, full disclosure, and we were cleaning it, and she was showing her how to, wash it, and I was so excited that I got to help, and I was carrying this crystal bowl, and I slipped because it was wet. And it was tiled floor, and I dropped it, and it shattered, and I fell, and I actually got a piece of glass in my knee. It's the only scar that I think I have, and everybody was just looking at the reaction that my grandmother was going to have, and she was a very regal person, and she said, "Well, let's get you cleaned up." And it wasn't a cheap piece, and now I'm understanding what it was, but I think that I learned the lesson that people have a greater value than things.
When we get mad that there's fingerprints on the white sofa, and why did you buy a white sofa when you have children in the first place?
And again, I don't have a white sofa. I have dogs, and I've learned the lesson that I do have nice things. I don't have children, but if something breaks, let it go. It's a thing, and that's important. Dawn, who inspires you?
Oh gosh, so many people. They're the celebrity people like Jose Andres from World Central Kitchen, who's been my celebrity crush for years. And for those who don't know him, he's Spanish, he's balding, he's pot-bellied. But he started this amazing charity as a chef after or about 10 years ago. And he shows up and he feeds people. He's feeding people in New York right now.
That's right. Yeah.
People in California. I mean, he's like this amazing humanitarian. And he has a great sense of humor. I have friends, dear friends, my friend Mary, who is just, she's regal, and she's thoughtful, and she's bold. Like, I think that's something that, and maybe it's because I'm over 50 at this point, like I'd rather ask for forgiveness than permission half the time. If it's really important now, it's like, be bold about it, like change it.
One of my favorite mottos.
Step up and
step up and do it, right?
Like for me, I'm a kid from Miami who grew up as an adult in the Midwest, and that Midwestern sensibility really echoes with me. So, and I've sat in a room with senators talking to them about injustices against children. And I walk out of the room and I'm like, why the frick was I in that room? Like, there could have been somebody so much smarter. And I start that, and then I go, but you're the one who was there. And so you can argue about whether or not you should be there. And I think as women, we can do that. And then but we really need to let that go. We need to go out and we need to do, and we need to change. So the people who inspire me are my husband's best friend's widow, Tanya, who has 3 sons and lost her husband of 30 years, almost 3 years ago now, or 2 to 3 years ago now, who still cries because she misses him. But she has created this incredible home with these beautiful children, and she makes finger sandwiches for her boys when they come home, and they ask for them. I'm like, everybody asks for Hot Pockets, but and it's not my world, but she is such an authentic, loving. So the people who inspire me are people who are authentic, whatever your belief system is, that you're true to it. People who are kind. I cannot overestimate, especially in the world that we have today. I had a priest during a homily say something, and it really has stuck with me. People who are impatient with other people are fundamentally saying that their needs and wants are more important than everybody else around them. It is the ultimate selfishness, and that's why impatience is a sin. Because if I'm standing in line, I need to talk to the manager, right? Because my latte wasn't the right temperature. First of all, and I've seen this, there are children in Haiti right now that are eating dirt because it's the only way to make the hunger cramps go away because there is no food. And I'm ticked off that my Frakamopa whatever is not the right temperature. Like, it goes back to, I bake bread. I love to bake bread. I love it when it comes out great. Sometimes it comes out like a hockey puck. When it does, I kind of laugh at it and put it in the compost. Like, okay, that's life. So people who can be authentic and can live their life in a way that they're kind to one another. I might not agree with you politically, religion, moral, I don't know, style of clothing, house decorations. I don't agree with you on it, but I need to be able to see the inherent dignity in you and decide, like, am I assuming that my thoughts, wants, and needs are so much more important than everybody else needs to do it my way? Are there not 100 correct ways to do this? And lastly, people who, and it could be the stupidest thing. It could be somebody who shows up once a year to help make a parish meal to raise money for St. Vincent de Paul for charity. It doesn't have to be somebody who runs a multinational corporation like Jose Andres, but who tries to make the world around them a better place. Whether it's someone that shares vegetables from their garden with their neighbor, or who volunteers making houses for Habitat for Humanity. Those are the people that inspire me. People who remind me that we are inherently good, that there is good in this world, no matter how dark it gets. Like this epidemic is not going away, Julie. I know people don't want to hear this, and I'm not saying we have to stay this locked down forever, but this virus is never going away. It is going to be there, and it's going to impact us until we can get control over it for months, if not a year or more. That we have to stop and we have to be kind. And I'm hoping that, like you said, that's the blessing of this. I'm hoping that it reminds us that our overscheduled lives with, I got to do yoga and Pilates, and I got to have coffee, and I got to do that. And we're scheduled from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. And so we have to schedule everybody in our house so that we can do what we need to do so they can do what they do. And we've stopped talking to each other. Now we're back to eating dinner again. We're back to cooking again. People are sitting around the table doing puzzles again. Right. And why are puzzles good? Because it's one of the reasons why you and I am sure will agree. I love baseball because I could take my kids to the stadium. And once we sat down, because the game's 2.5, 3 hours long, there's a lot of talking that goes on there. Every parent who's ever loves driving carpool, because that's how you find out what's happening in your kids' lives, because they start talking in the car when they're not like
glued to a device. And I love your selfie phase. For those of you who didn't see what Dawn was trying to emulate, some of those teenagers with a duck face. You make a very good duck face. I like it.
You know what? I'm whatever. I don't think anything is wrong. I think if you're unkind or you're hurtful to somebody else, that's wrong. The rest of it, but again, it's about doing things to excess. So you shouldn't exercise to excess. You shouldn't eat to excess. You shouldn't do anything to excess.
I think that's exactly why most of these, and without getting too religious or talking about the commandments, I was taught that the commandments are rules, sure, but they're also there to protect us from different things. And I think that anything to excess in this world, I happen to love a good glass of wine. As you can tell, I own lots of wine glasses. But I think that that's when we get in trouble, when we go in the direction of doing something too much and forgetting everything else because we're putting this in front of it. We actually have been talking about in our church, I go to a non-denominational church, although I grew up in the Catholic Church. My husband and I are both divorced. We have practice spouses. So we made a decision to attend a church that is really embodies a lot of our faith. In one of the things that we're learning is, what are we putting in the in between, right? And what are we using to numb ourselves? And this is something that our pastor had actually come up with even before this whole crisis, and this is already had been planned. And it's really gotten me to think that there's so many things that, like you were saying, we had been in a society and going in a way in which so many other things were put in front of to either numb the pain because maybe we're depressed or we suffer from anxiety or we were looking to avoid the circumstances where we hate our job. So we put all this in the in-between as opposed to turning to the things that really create peace and create joy and fill our cup in a positive way. So I think that I'm hoping that out of this environment, and we can create a sense of mindfulness, a sense of new beginnings for ourselves, and embracing the things that matter, like family time, like conversations, and making a focus that we are going to have to reshift our mind. And some of the things that we're looking to accomplish in our lives are still possible, but we need to give ourselves grace in the process to getting there.
And I think no matter what culture you're from, there's that notion of or religion or not religion. It's this notion that kindness and leaving the world a better place is a good notion. And I don't know if it's age, and I don't know what it is, but both my biologic parents are gone, and my godfather, my adopted father, is gone. And I've got little things that remind me of them, and they become very precious to me. And because my parents passed, I got things from them that I would talk to my kids, and because I'm looking at moving, and I would say, well, do you want this? Well, that has no meaning for them, right? Because their memory. See, the things that are valuable to me are things that I have memories on. And so are we collecting things in our lives instead of people in our lives? Because I would argue that, other than the fact that some archaeologist in 100 years is going to go like, why did everybody have white subway tile in their house right now? Kind of like we feel like, why did everybody carpet over this hardwood, right?
Because of the Property Brothers and Magnolia. They all put that darn white tile behind all the kitchens. Which they do.
Fine. It's totally fine if that's your thing. Like, fly your white tile flag, but so in 100 years, we're going to find all this stuff, and they're going to go, why was this important to them? And I can look at this and go, well, this is important to me because this is a picture of me and my sister in a wagon together. I think I have, it's right here. How cool is that? As I knock everything off my shelf to prove my
You're good.
This is me and my sister.
Look at Amy
in Miami. This is precious to me, right? Because this is my person, and that's why it has value. And my husband's very much a minimalist. And so I've started looking around going like, why do I have this? And I know and now it's a Maria Kondo, like, if it doesn't give you joy, get rid of it. But it's really more about collecting experiences. And I would give everything in my house away to have another month with the people that are gone.
So true.
And
so true.
To just sit and talk to them again, and to have those opportunities. I had a friend who passed away of a brain tumor a year ago this past fall. And in her last 2 weeks of life, we were fortunate enough to have a couple dinner dates with she and her wife. And I had the opportunity, because I knew I wasn't going to see Kenda again, to tell her how I really felt about her when she left. And and we don't do that. We don't call our family enough. We have excuses. Oh, well, it's too late. I'll do it tomorrow. Oh, and I hope that because we're home and we can't be running around as much, that maybe we're doing some more of that reconnecting, because I think that in our core as humans, we're not designed to be alone.
No.
And I think that because we're not designed to be alone, that even an introvert like me is going crazy with my husband, who's an introvert, who's going crazy being in the house. Even he wants to get out of the house. And he's the biggest introvert I've ever met in my life. We are designed to be around other people, and we were designed to give and share love. And who designed us, and whether it was, spontaneous or not, we can all have a debate about that over a glass of wine at a future date.
Right.
But I think going back to success, so it's being kind. And I've really learned to have deliberate thought in my life. I've learned, especially like over the epidemic, I don't like my comforter right now, so I've been shopping for new sheets. So I have like sheet sets and comforters and duvets in like shopping carts at multiple places, because there's that impulse of the marketing influence to go, buy, do. And that's the same ones that told us that we had right now, I guess we're all supposed to have big butts, duck lips, big boobs, tiny little waists. We're supposed to be drinking Vegemite. I don't know what we're supposed to be doing. And it's this great lie that we tell each other, or it's the marketing messages that have been effective, that have taught us that we need something that we don't really need. And what we really need in our lives is a sense of purpose, and we need people in our lives that bring us joy.
Right.
And you and I believe this, and I believe most people do. I believe that my mission in life is to come in and is to do good. And that, yes, there will be an archaeologist who will find the tiles for my kitchen, but my legacy and my memory will not be textbooks. It will not be journal articles. It will not be presentations at conferences. It will be the stories that my friends told about me. It will be the students that I mentored who felt empowered because they knew me. It will be the legacy that and I'm going to get choked up at this, but it will be the legacy of my beautiful, stunning, amazing daughters. That is what my legacy will be. And we spend too much time in the titles and the names at the end of the desk. And when you sit around and you talk about people that you knew that are gone, we talk about times that we laughed with them or cried with them. We don't talk about, you talked about your grandmother and these beautiful china sets, but your story was not about the objects. It was about the way she made you feel.
And her legacy for me, and like you talked about the legacy that will live on through your daughters, I look at my grandmother, and she was a strong, independent, successful woman that accomplished many things in her life. But the legacy of her life that lives in me is the legacy that she taught me to give back, to treat others well, no matter who they were, whether it be someone that served us or someone that was in power in the country, right? And that we could have had multiple of these people at our dining room table at one point, but that legacy is the legacy that lives in me. And I'm hoping that we help other women as well know that they can be and do anything they want. They can avail themselves of the things that make them better versions of themselves, but also to make sure that they see the beauty that they have in themselves just as they are. And I think that I'm hoping that through these conversations, we continue to spread that message out.
It is the message of success as a life well loved and well
loved.
And I think you've summed it up right there. That's what we're here for. That's the importance in life.
Right.
And success is as personal as skin color or eye color or hair color. There is no one success. And how great is it that you and I have been talking for as long as we have today? And neither one of us have brought up wealth. Neither one of us have brought up status. And I think that's it right there. And that's why these conversations, especially for women, are important, because we do grow up from a very early age with very conflicting messages.
That's right.
And, women have, I would argue to you that we need more women at the table, because frankly, we haven't been at a table. And I don't know anyone who thinks anything in the world is going the way that it should right now.
Well, I'm a big proponent of being at the table, pushing myself in, and making room for the next woman to come and sit next to me, because we need us all to be there. And for those who are afraid of being at the table, or for those who don't think they belong, or for those who feel like, why bother be at the table, my message is, if we don't take the chance to do it now, then the girls that come after us will continue to not know that they belong.
Well, and like, I think Rosa Parks was an amazing human being, and I have an immense amount of respect from her. And she's a shero in many sense. And she was brave, and she was courageous, and she was alone. But you know what? You know why she did that? She did that because she was influenced by a million people over a million occasions to know what was right and wrong, and to stand up for what was right and wrong. And so for every one person who breaks through that glass ceiling, there are hundreds, if not thousands, that sat there and weakened it. So all it needed was that one chip
more
to break. And so, yeah, I mean, if no one ever knows my name, and it was funny, I went back to my high school reunion and nobody did remember me. I was so forgetful that I'm like, yeah, you don't remember me. I wasn't worth remembering in high school. Now my youth group friends, they remember me.
Listen, you were a superstar.
I don't know that I was a superstar. I finally found my tribe. And I think, and I don't mean that in like a negative. I know for some people, especially people who are disenfranchised, the word tribe has very personal meaning, and they don't like us other people using it.
Right.
But I finally found my group. I found my group.
You found your people.
I found my weirdos.
And I believe that this group of weirdos, and I did not get a chance to go to the New Life reunion last summer, and I'm really sorry that I didn't get a chance to do that. But I love the fact that 30 years later, most of us still connect at a fundamental level, that there is a bond, like the Michael W. Smith song says. And to close this out, because I could talk to you all afternoon, but really,
I know.
And a friend's a friend forever, of the Lord's a Lord of them. And I go back to that song, and I believe that it rings true every day of my life. I look back on our formative years as years that have created in us purposeful, mindful women who continue to do the best they can through everything, who they are and what they do. So I cannot be more grateful for the two conversations that we've had, because we did chat a little bit yesterday, and I definitely can talk to you all day, but I want to be sensitive to obviously, well, to the executive producer of the show, #HandsomehotHusband, who will be editing this. And number two, I definitely want to have you another period of time, have you come back, maybe after
Anytime.
Things are going to whatever new normal it is, so that we can dig deep into the conversation of how to create that new normal for kids, because I think that a lot of people are going to be looking for that tangible things. But I want to inspire women through the conversation that we had today to go out and be servant leaders, be fearless, be resilient. And listen, if you're standing in line and it's taking too long, occupy yourself. Don't be upset about it.
Yeah, use that time to just breathe. And when I do, I find myself getting aggravated. Well, because I got to get out of here. Then you know what? It was my fault that I went to the grocery store when I only had 10 minutes to do it. I should have been a better time manager, because if I only have 10 minutes to go to the grocery store and it takes 11 minutes to get out, then that fault was on me. It wasn't on the grocery store. And so just take that moment to breathe and be present and say, is this something I'm going to remember? And I think that's a thing that I do in my life. Am I going to remember this in 6 months? Because if I'm not wasting time on it. But if I will, then it's worth spending time. And I thank you for honoring me for being here today. I think what you're doing is powerful. And yeah, I'm thrilled to come back anytime.
Absolutely. And people can find you on social media and through the channels?
Yeah. So I'm on, I don't even know where
I will put it on the show notes, but you're on Facebook.
One. Yeah, my professional, if people want to follow me professionally, I'm on Twitter and I am at Dawn Maaks, DAWNMAAKS. My Facebook and my Instagram and the rest of that's private because that's the real me.
I like the real you and the professional you, but I think that, again, people need to get the privilege to get to know you personally before they can follow you there. So.
Nope. And just be grateful. Be grateful and be kind. And it's that golden rule, right? Do unto others as they do unto you. And without getting too sappy, I'm sure your husband will edit this out. I'm so blessed for our friendship of decades.
Me too. I am extremely blessed as well.
You inspire me, and the work that you do and the goodness that you put out. So thank you. This has been fun.
Thank you for your time.
Nice to meet the hot husband, at least by his voice.
Listen, I already promised Paul and Kamala we're going to make our way out to the Pacific Northwest again.
Oh my gosh,
so.
Yes. Yeah, and
we're
10 minutes away. So we have a guest room if there's is not available. Yeah.
All right.
I'd love
that.
All
right. Well, thank you, my darling. Love you. Bye. Have a good afternoon.
You too.
Bye.
Well, there's your first 2-part episode. Only 2 episodes in.
Listen, I like to be a little different and stay ahead of the curve. By the way, I was thinking I'm going to pull out my roller skates because I have them upstairs. Go roller skating, Daniel.
I don't have any. They don't make any in Sasquatch size.
Wow.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Casa de Confidence podcast with Julie DeLucca-Collins. Remember to check her out on Instagram and Facebook, and always click subscribe to catch every new episode. Remember, leave a review so we can continue to bring you fresh content. And as always, go confidently in the direction of your dreams.
Hi, everybody. I know that sometimes we get very lonely in this entrepreneur journey, and I want to invite you to join us into our limited time only Purposeful You Mastermind. For many of us entrepreneurs, we believe that we can do it all, but the reality is that doing it alone only creates a lot of overwhelm. So join us at the Purposeful You Mastermind. You can find out more information by going to bit.ly/Julie's Mastermind. This is going to be the place where you are able to then unlock your full potential and achieve long-term success for your business. Push you behind your current limits, expand your connections, discover new ideas, and implement them with confidence. You're going to get the support in all aspects and transforming you to the 6-figure business you've been looking for. Pause and get off the hamster wheel if you've been spinning around. This is a time where you can get that support from like-minded entrepreneurs that are here to join you in your journey. Together, we can challenge the assumptions and land the speaking engagements and opportunities we want to grow our business and make an impact in the lives of people. See you then. Remember, you can find the mastermind at bit.ly Julie's mastermind.